The other day I was driving home, not thinking about anything in particular, and certainly not thinking of spending any money. Somehow I ended up in HomeSense, standing in the decorative pillow aisle, holding two pillows I absolutely did not need, trying to decide between them like it was a major life decision. And I had this moment of thinking, how did I even get here? Before I get into this, if you're new here, hi, I'm Susan. I make videos about solo life, downsizing, rental living, and just figuring out life as we go along. And if that sounds like your kind of conversation, you're always welcome here. Lately, I've been noticing this whole no buy, low buy trend. It's where people are challenging themselves not to spend money for a month or even a year. And it's interesting to contemplate, but it also makes me think, haven't we seen this before? I think about my Polish Babcia. She was born in 1918. She lived through the Depression, wartime, raising a young family on a homestead in Saskatchewan with very little. As I knew her, she could make anything out of nothing. She was a gifted seamstress, talented crafter, and gardener. She wouldn't buy anything unless she couldn't make it. And nothing was ever wasted or thrown out. Nothing. No jars, not scraps of fabric, not rubber bands, twist ties, or plastic bags. Everything had a purpose. She was a master at reducing, reusing, and recycling long before it was a thing. And my dad was exactly the same as his mom. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. He could build, fix, or jerry rig anything to fill a purpose or need. He even built our family home in the 1960s when he was in his early 20s, mainly out of used, repurposed building materials. But I remember when I was younger, as I watched people squirrel things away or build something that could have been bought, I used to think, why not just go out and buy the darn thing? Why spend all that time making or fixing something or trying to piece something together? This also makes me think of an interaction with an elderly next door neighbor, probably about 20 years ago. I remember mentioning a need for some string, and lo and behold, he shows up at the door and he's standing there with this ginormous bag of every length, width, and type of string and twine or rope you could ever imagine. Short ones, long ones, tangled ones, clearly saved over a lifetime. And I remember laughing inside, but it also made complete sense. Because when you've lived through times where you didn't have much or didn't have enough, you don't waste anything. And somewhere along the way, we went completely the opposite direction. We didn't just stop saving things. We started buying everything in duplicate and triplicate, way too much of everything. You go through your 20s, 30s, 40s, and you're building a life and a home and raising a family, and little by little you accumulate. It doesn't feel like a problem at the time, it feels completely normal. Until one day you look around and think, where did all of this stuff come from? And then begins that phase, the one I think all of us know very well, the decluttering and sorting, the why on earth did I buy this phase, and how on earth can I get rid of it? Which brings me to this no buy movement. So, what exactly is it? The no buy movement is a growing anti consumerism trend where people abstain from purchasing non essential items such as clothing, beauty products, or home decor for a set period of time, such as a month or even a full year. And it seems to be driven by a number of factors: financial, environmental, a desire to curb impulse spending. More and more people seem to want to break bad consumer and spending habits, reduce clutter, and pay off debt. And that's why this whole no buy, low buy idea has been sitting in the back of my mind lately. Not because I think I'm suddenly going to become this ultra disciplined person, because let's be realistic, I know my limits. But it has made me think and realize there are a few things I could very easily stop buying right now and not miss them at all. Like cleaning products. I know I could clean my entire home with vinegar and baking soda and dish soap, and yet the cleaning shelf looks like a small retail display. Or greeting cards. Okay, we all know the price of greeting cards is outrageous. I've made my own greeting cards in the past. I love watercolor painting, and I've made some really cute cards before. And I love doing it and giving them. But I got out of the habit. I guess I told myself I didn't have the time. Well, I have the time now, or I can definitely find the time a lot easier now. I'm officially starting that practice again, not only because of the ridiculous price of the cards, but because I know a unique homemade one means more for the recipient and the giver. My sister, who is a scrapbooker, journaler, and record keeper extraordinaire, has been making her own greeting cards to give to family for years, and I know they're cherished gifts in and of themselves. Remember back in the day when homemade gifts were a thing? Cookies, desserts, sewing, or knitting creations, one of a kind items? Wouldn't it be nice to think that those days were coming back? Have you ever given or received homemade gifts as gifts? Is there something special that stands out and comes to mind for you? Another thing that seems to be gaining in popularity is shopping your pantry and eating food and using the ingredients you already have and not just ordering in or continuing to load up the freezer or cupboards. Honestly, I could probably eat for a couple of weeks without buying anything. Yes, I'd be having a lot of pancakes, oatmeal, lentils, walnuts, and salmon, but it would finally clear out what has been taking up space for a while. We want quick, easy food, and we don't want to think too much about it. And it's really easy to fall into this habit or impulsive lifestyle, even when you have cupboards and a freezer full of food. Another example of this low buy trend is called Project Pan. It's a popular beauty and skincare challenge focused on using up existing makeup, skincare, or beauty products completely rather than buying new ones. It's called Project Pan because the goal is to hit the metal pan at the bottom of the cosmetic container, showing that the product has been completely used up. It too is supposed to promote mindful consumption, sustainability, and decluttering while saving money. Oh, I can so relate to this. How many of us have tried a product, moisturizer, makeup, shampoo, or and never finished because we weren't completely happy with it? You buy that lipstick and it's not quite what you were looking for. I'm really going to make an effort to finish what I have first, as far as those type of products are concerned, before I purchase anything new. And the more I started looking into this whole no buy, low buy idea, the more I realized it's not just one thing. There are all of these little movements happening that are kind of pushing back against this idea that we always need more. One of them is called Underconsumption Core, and I actually love this one. It's basically people proudly using what they already have until it's completely worn out, wearing the same coat for years, using the same water bottle, finishing every last bit of a product instead of constantly replacing things. And it sounds so simple, but it's kind of refreshing, isn't it? There's also something called de-influencing, which is almost the opposite of what we've been used to seeing. Instead of encouraging you to buy something, people are actually saying, you don't need this. They're pointing out when something is overhyped and overpriced or just unnecessary. And I think that's a bit of a shift. Another one I came across is the rule of five, which is about limiting yourself to just 5 new clothing items a year. 5. And when you hear that, you kind of stop and think, wow, how much am I actually buying? And then there are those buy nothing groups and communities where people share things with neighbors instead of buying them, giving things away, trading, borrowing, and it brings back that sense of community. And one more that really connects to what we were talking about earlier is visible mending and upcycling. So instead of throwing something out, you repair it, sometimes even in a way that stands out, like patching or stitching, that becomes part of the design, or turning something old into something completely new. And when you look at all of these together, they're really not new ideas at all. They're things our parents and grandparents just did because they had to. If I think of the hand me downs that I wore as a child that had been through my brother, my sister, and then my brother, and then me, well, that's just what we did back in the day. That was completely normal. I really don't think a no buy year is something I could actually follow through with. I might be able to pull it off for a couple of months, but maybe it's just little shifts like using up what we already have before buying more, or waiting a day or two before picking something up from the store, seeing if we can use something else instead. Maybe we'd find that if we put some time between the impulse and pulling out our debit card or cash, we may not even really want it anymore. Or taking the time to make something if we're able to, instead of always thinking we have to buy something. I think what this really comes down to is something our parents and grandparents understood so well. You don't need more, you just need enough. And maybe we need a little creativity, patience, and awareness of how easily we fall into habits and impulses. I'm not going full no buy anytime soon, but I am paying more attention, and that already feels like a step in the right direction. I'd love to know, could you do a no buy month? Is this something you've ever tried or contemplated? Let me know in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you'd consider subscribing and joining me for more discussions just like this one. And you might be interested in this video about things that matter more to me now than they used to. Until next time, take care.